What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Wow, we have our first world champion. Congratulations to DKP and the whole World Class Cards organization. But we're on to season 2, and there were some announcements with that, and a lot of people are upset. They were capping out so quickly at events last year. The demand is there for so many events, and there's 3 in Europe, 3 in the United States. And part of this, I think, is because they're starting so late into the year. But at the same time, it's kind of disheartening because the player base is there that they could easily have 10 to 15 of these events. They could do one a month and easily fill them. They could, they could probably have 2 in a single weekend and cap both of them out. The player base is there. The demand is there. I don't know if they just need the organizations to step in and help do these events and run them. But hopefully soon we get to start to see that. They did mention the third-party events like Charlie Collectible shows. Again, World Class Cards puts on some bigger events, and there's others too that do it. I don't know. We'll see. I would like to see a nice big official whatever with invites, all that kind of good stuff. It'd be cool. Coming from a Yu-Gi-Oh player where there's regionals every weekend, and they do really well. I'd love to see something like that in the Lorcana game, but today we're going to talk about Blurple, and we're going to start out by going over some tech cards. And these are cards that aren't in my list, but maybe you want to consider them. And in your one-drop spot, you're going to have things where your one-drops in this deck is all about consistency, from like Chernabogs, Diablos, Magic Brooms, Popsicles, Develop Your Brains. Turn 1 is just consistency. That's really all it is for this deck. As you go into turn 2, it's mostly about the ramp. But if you want some utility, Visions of the Future is a great consistency card, especially late game when you're digging 5 cards deep. Hideaway, if locations just prove to be very problematic. If decks like DKP's Red-Blue deck, where there's the 4 manners, having an answer for a McDuck Manor is just really important in today's game. Again, the most important thing you're going to be looking for in Blurple is ramping on turn 2, though. You want to hit that Tipo, you want to hit that Sail more than anything. Madam Snake has kind of found her way out of the deck, and I don't miss her whatsoever, but some people like the bounciness of it. They like being able to recur their Hades more often, things like that. So Madam Snake is still an option there. As we go up higher, another play line we've been seeing into the evasive with Peter Pan Shadowfinder, being able to give your evasive cards rush, and then often playing that in with Iago Giant Spectral Parrot. Just the 4/6 body is very strong, and if you give it rush with your Peter Pan, it can be a very problematic card for your opponent to deal with, and especially if you can like boost it with a crab even, and all of a sudden you're swinging for 7, taking out things like Maui Half Sharks. Just a good way to help deal with those. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of the space it takes up and where it pushes the deck to. Also, giving your Genie rush, though, is kind of nice. Like, you come down with Peter Pan on 3, Genie on 4, Genie can rush into something. It does enable some play lines for you. Just overall, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. As far as consistency goes, I don't think Merlin Rabbit is really needed. It's kind of crazy that this card has fallen off so much, but at the end of the day, it's uninkable, and it kind of got power crept out of things. Some utility in the 5-drop spot that maybe you want to play, and we're in a pretty heavy steel meta. If your locals is full of steel, full of those songs, honestly consider playing Aurora. Being able to give all your other characters ward is very strong, and she's a turn 4 play because you're ramping on 2, so you get to her quicker. And if you get 2 of these down, then they both get warded, and you just shut down so many of your opponent's songs, and it can be very, very good for you that way. And she actually does pair up with Iago really nicely, though. If you're going to play the Peter Pan Iago, maybe you go ahead and play Aurora too. Give Iago that ward so that your opponent can't choose it for an action, and just kind of help prolong him a little bit that way if you want. I do really like Aurora right now. I've been testing her, and maybe she finds her way into the main deck as well. People say steel metas, Cogsworth, resist. I get it. Yes, it's strong. It's good. But give me the ward from Aurora. The resist is, even with resist 1, a Zeus still kills your Genie. A lot of these cards, they still do what they need to do, even with that resist 1. If you get multiple Cogsworth out, though, all of a sudden when you start having resist 2 or so, it can be very problematic for your opponent. But again, I think just having ward 2 is sufficient enough. So I do like the Aurora. Cogsworth having Ward himself is really nice, though. Donald Duck, it's a multi-quester that can help you ramp into that mid-late game. Always got to like that mid-late game when you're kind of trying to close things out, get a little more advantage. You maybe are getting lower on your resources, and all of a sudden you can play Donald and get a good body on board, a multi-questing body on board, and also be able to ramp one more time and just push yourself that much further. We mentioned Hideaway. Cusco is a body form incarnate of Hideaway where you can put an item or location into its player's ink while face down and exert it. Also questing for 2. You can pay 4 ink. Your other characters gain resist 1 till the start of your turn. Doesn't come up very often, but it sometimes actually comes up, and a lot of people forget that he has the ability to do this. So don't sleep on that or forget about it. Tamatoa happy as a clam. I'm not playing crab. I've seen so many people say how much they like it, how much they really want it. When you play it, you can return some items from your discard to your hand, and whenever it quests, you can play an item for free. Typically, we're only playing the Popsicle, though, and I have not found that he warrants that spot. There's other high-end cards that I found to be more impactful, more generically good across matchups, and just help overall where the deck needs it. Not to say it's a bad card by any means. I think it's an incredibly strong card. I just think for what Blurple does, I'm not a big fan of Tamatoa personally. Monstros, a 6/8 rush multi-quester, and you can discard a card and ready it. So you can play him, rush him in, discard a card, ready him, rush him in, discard a card, ready him, rush him in. Just board wiping your opponent can be very strong. I tested it I was at 2. It's nice when your opponent went really wide on you. Otherwise, it's okay. I'm up in the air on it. I'm currently back on Elsa at the moment. If Elsa comes out, I think Monstro finds his way in. Being inkable also is very nice. So I think this card is incredibly strong, very good. One of the cards that is probably right near the top. Monstro and Aurora are probably the 2 cards at the top of the list for making their way into my main deck. My main deck build, if I had to pick. Mufasa's just a nice 4-quester, 4/9. Getting all that extra ink can be very problematic for your opponent. Sometimes you have to ink a card you don't want to, and this offers a potential to get it back. Mufasa can be a very fun card that way. Ratigan having Ward and as a 6/7 body questing for 4 really says, what are you going to do to get rid of me? Are you playing B prep, or are you going to sacrifice 3 or more characters crashing into me? A half shark will take it down, but I will also take that trade. So this card can close out games and do so much, and it's inkable. That's the best part about Ratigan. I really actually like Ratigan, and I want to play around with it more. It applies so much pressure to your opponent, like, hey, what are you going to do, or I'm going to win this game? Olaf Happy Passenger, kind of like that too. It doesn't have Ward, but it's evasive. It's a 6/6, so it survives a Zeus. You can pay less for each exerted character your opponent has in play. But with a ramp, it's not necessarily something that's going to be too hard to get to. Questing for 3. I would go Ratigan and Mufasa both over Olaf, but I just wanted to mention it because it's Olaf. How Far I'll Go, Let It Go. A couple songs. I like my mid to late game ramp tools, so How Far I'll Go, and it offers consistency too. I'm all about consistency. So having How Far I'll Go is a great, great card. Absolutely love it. I'm about efficiency, consistency, things like that. I want to keep moving forward. I want every card to be impactful and do really well. Let It Go kind of finding its way on the outs because Into the Unknown kind of replacing it. Needing to be an exerted character can kind of stink, especially in that late game when you're trying to close it out before your opponent can quest. So I understand why Let It Go could be good there. But at the same time, Belle being able to sing into the Unknown is just really, really strong and great value for you that way. Otherwise, your locations. Locations are really good. People plan for them, though, and how do you want to develop, and where is aggro in the format? Locations don't really help versus the aggro matchups, but they can help versus some of the slower matchups. So you got to kind of pick and choose where you would like to go with things like that. But we're going to hop over then into my actual deck list, and it's up on the screen now. You can see it. So in my 1-drops, I'm playing Diablo and Popsicle. I found 8 1-drops has been completely sufficient. You have Bell to pair up with that Popsicle as well. So we're playing the 4 Bells, 4 Tipo, 4 Sails for our ramping on 2. Like I said, you really, really want to hit that ramp. I've seen people cut Crab. I don't like that at all, especially versus aggro. Like being able to Crab boost a Tipo, take out a Daisy, and then you have Tipo Merlin still on board, especially if you can have like Fox or Elsa in hand for that turn 4 comeback play. I think it gives you a pretty good chance against the aggressive strategies, and I like it a lot. 4 Madam M Fox, pretty self-explanatory there. 4 Genies. Genie's just, one of the pivotal cards of the deck. It's draw, it's consistency, it's evasive, it quests for 2, it has 4 willpower. And then also 4 Big Bells. Bell is so crazy. You can shift her, not only, and then sing things like All Is Found, which we're playing in the deck, and we'll talk about here briefly in a second. But being able to move that damage, meaning you can say crash or like go Elsa into something, and all of a sudden you get like 3 damage on your Elsa, and then you can play your Bell, move that 3 damage to another character, and all of a sudden you can start taking out your opponent's characters that are still in a readied state, and you can deal with them before they can quest. I've had so many games where I'm losing like 16-0, and I come back to win because you stabilize, and you get to a point where everything you do prevents your opponent from doing anything. Between Hades, Elsas, little Elsas exerting them, Bells, all these other things, Ursulas, so many different ways to deal with your opponent's cards as they just play them. And if you get them into like a top decking mode where they're playing 1 card at a time, it is game over at this point once you start to get to your heavy hitters. Elsa, obviously, being able to exert and rush into them, 5 willpower, really, really strong. 4 Hades, 2 Elsas. We're on 10 total unequables. 6 of them being in our high cost slots, but that's okay. It's perfectly fine. Also, you can also get that shift line. The 4/6, 3 questing bodies, really nice. Being able to freeze your opponent, obviously very nice as well. But the big one we're going to talk about here is Ursula. So why Ursula? Everyone says Steel Song is such a horrible matchup for this deck. Amber Steel Aggro, such a bad matchup for this deck. Just hyper aggressive strategy, such a bad matchup for the deck. I think the deck actually does decent into aggro. Sometimes they're just gonna hit it. Like if they go 1-drop, double 1-drop on 2, and you miss it, heaven forbid you miss one of your 1 or 2 characters, you're gonna be in a bad spot. That's just how it goes. Sometimes it is gonna happen that way. But overall, like I said, I've had so many games where I'm down like 16-0, 17-0. I was actually down 18-1 in a game and came back to win. You get to a point where, again, all your cards, ideally you're hitting your good cards, are so impactful, so good in that late game. And Ursula being able to quest for 3, mind you, which really just puts a pressure on your opponent, being a 4/7 body. She can then exert your opponent's character that they just played. So all of a sudden, now you can challenge in and take that out. Things like your opponent having a bunch of ward obviously can mess with your strategy that way too. And that's going to stop your Hades, your Elsas, your all your cards, really, your Bells. So ward is going to be one of the weaknesses of the deck. But overall, really, really liking Ursula. She's put in so much work. And if you can get her down to, like, we're going to talk matchups real quick here. So, like, versus Steel Song, how do you go about it? Well, if you can hit, like, Popsicle into Bell on turn 1, that's really good because they can't just storm it and get rid of it right away. It applies that good body board presence pressure. Diablo, depending on your hand, sometimes it's nice to throw it down because you get that draw even if they storm you, and if they don't, then you can just go ahead and start questing and plucking away. But Tipo isn't very good in that matchup, so I always go for Sail over the Tipo into Steel Song, because if they just storm your Tipo, you just lose momentum, you lose advantage, stuff like that. Like I'd 100% rather go for Sail. And versus Steel Song, I mulligan away like my top end all the time. I play it as if they're going to hit Whole New World by turn 4 or 5. So I don't want any of my turn 4 or onward cards. Like I'm not going to keep, I never keep Hades or Elsa. They're too high cost, they're unequal, they always get mulliganed away. But Ursula's I'm not going to keep, even though it's my Steel Song counter card, I'm not keeping it off the mulligan before the mulligan, because I'm assuming my opponent is going to Steel Song or to Whole New World me before I get to play my Ursula anyway. So I'd rather get wheeled into it than have it get wheeled away. So ideally, like turn 1, you play a card, your Diablo or your Popsicle, into your Bell if you can. Turn 2, you would go Sail. All of a sudden, you're up to 3 ink. Turn 4, you go to 4 ink. If you can ramp another turn in there and possibly get Ursula down by 5, though, and once you get Ursula down, it's just really nice because it turns off their singers, and now they have to hard cast their songs, which means they can't just ink a card, sing Whole New World, go wide with their board. They have to hard play it. Now they just spent all their ink and they can't go wide afterwards. So now you refill your hand and now you get to answer their board. And then you get to quest with your Ursula, exert their card, and you can start picking them apart that way. So I think Ursula helps a ton in the Steel Song matchup. Big thing, again, is mulliganing stuff away and trying to stick your 3/3 bodies or bigger bodies like that on board early. Your Bells, your Crabs, your Foxes, things like that. Even your Elsa. Genie kind of forces out their Zeuses, but if you can Big Bell too, try and keep their singers, keep that Ariel off the board if possible. And once you start to get into that mid to late game, like it's like, oh, I'm gonna Hades bounce Hades. Be careful with that, because now if the Whole New World you just lose your good cards. Sometimes it's better in Steel Song to keep your Elsa on board, to keep your Ursula, your Hades. Leave these cards on board. Don't bounce them to get to reuse them again. Keep them on board because they're harder to deal with on board than they're going to be if you just Whole New World them and get them away out of your hand. In that regard, a couple actions we said Sail already. Finders Keepers, not only with just discard, but it's so nice. A lot of time you get to like 10 ink so easily in this deck, like incredibly easy. So if you're top decking, you hit a Finders Keepers, you play it, you get 3 new cards, still have 5 ink or more, and all of a sudden you get to just play and it's a whole new game. And you get to just start going off once again. Friends on the other side, obviously the consistency, Into the Unknown. Really liking this card a lot. I thought about cutting it at one point, and now I actually bumped it up from 2 to 3. It's just, it owes so many things. Half Shark, gone. Rhino, gone. Just being able to deal with your opponent's cards without challenging them is so nice, and Let It Go is better in that late game state. But at the same time, most of your 5 cost or higher cards, your Bells, your Ursulas, your Elsa, I mean, little Elsa's not in that category, but your big Elsa, your Hades, they're multi-questers. They offer different utility where singing isn't always ideal, but with Into the Unknown, your Crab can sing it, your Fox can sing it, your Bell can sing it. All of a sudden, these lower cards that have less utility once they're on the board can sing this card and just get really good value out of them. Instead, kind of like singing Friends on the other side on turn 2 if you get that Bell play. And then on turn 3, you can actually hit up to 6 ink on turn 3 if you hit the shift then. Because turn 1, turn 2 you ramp, you go to 3. Turn 3, you would ink 1, shift Bell, sing All Is Found, and all of a sudden you're up to 6 ink on turn 3, which would mean Ursula on turn 4. I played All Is Found last run of set championships, and all 4 events we went to, we got our promo. We had a couple second places. We split the one top 4 and a top 8. This card put in so much work. It was so good into red blue, even like where it's going to be a grindier game, so who gets to their top faster, who can just kind of apply that pressure and get to that state faster. And all of a sudden, when you're using your discard instead of your hand, instead of your unknown in your deck, when you're using your discard, you're using cards that already played, already got their value, already are used. It was really, really nice. Worked out for me really good. If I were like, and then the 4 popsicles, I mentioned Monstro and Aurora. On the chopping block cards, as much as I say how good it was, All Is Found is probably the weakest card in the deck. Like, overall, every card in the deck has a very, very high purpose for it. Like Popsicles and Diablo's consistency, turn 1 play. Your Bell is also a potential turn 1 play / singing your songs on turn 2. Enables a shift line for Bell. Tipo and Sail is your ramp. Fox and Crab is your counter when you're going second. It's your ability to play on the draw. Same with your Elsa. Genie's just applies pressure and consistency. The utility here, there's really, I feel weird kind of like saying like there's no bad cards in the deck, but at the same time, like when you're playing an opponent, sometimes you're like, gosh, how do they always draw a good card? This is one of those decks where like it really does feel like you're only playing good cards. Sometimes you see the wrong card in the wrong scenario. You top deck a Tipo late. You see something like that where it's not going to be beneficial. But at the end of the day, it's overall, I really, really like how the deck has been going and happy with it overall. I'd say Big Elsa and All Is Found are would be the four on the chopping block that I'd say maybe for like Aurora. But those four are putting in so much work. They're doing so good. I don't see myself changing that anytime soon. If you're on the play, it kind of depends a little bit. So, like, if you have Belle and Popsicle already in your hand, I'll usually keep that. I don't necessarily need the Diablo. More often than not, too, I like Sail over the Tipo for my ramp potential. Otherwise, if I'm versus like an aggressive deck, though, I like Tipo. I want Diablo, Tipo, unless I have the Bell line. If I don't have the Bell line, I keep Diablo. You go for Tipo over the Sail because you want to get that body on board versus aggro. And then even though you might not use all your ink, you come back with like a crab, like I said, boost your Tipo or boost your Diablo, turn it into a 3-1, crash into something, trade really well, get a card draw. You still have crab on board. I really like the value that it goes. So 4 crab really should be mandatory in Blurple. I think it helps so much in these matchups. Otherwise, too, being able to boost like your Elsa or your Genie to take out half sharks is really invaluable. Another thing too, keep in mind like Bell with moving damage with resist. Moving damage is not damaging them. So like if you have 3 damage on Genie, you play your Bell and you move 3 damage to Rhino, it takes 3 damage because you move 3 damage to it. You're not dealing it. So damage dealt to it is reduced by 2. You're not dealing it though, you're moving it. So it would move all 3 and all of a sudden the Rhino's gone. So Bell is such a great Rhino counter too. But yeah, overall, I think this deck it's in a really good spot. Like I said, sometimes Steel Song can be difficult to navigate at times. Sometimes they have it, or you have a really good hand and you get Whole New World and it's disheartening. That matchup can definitely be rough. It's far, far, far from unwinnable. The set championship where I split because it was like 11:30 at night and we wanted to go home, I played 3 Steel Songs that day and I won all 3 matchups for Steel Songs. So Steel Song is very far from unwinnable, but I'd say it's probably your hardest matchup at the same time. Sometimes aggressive strategies, they're just going to get the jump on you. It happens. Red-blue can be hyper aggro as well, but sometimes, like I said, if they go like Daisy on 1 and then they come back with 1 drop plus a second Daisy, like that's just really, really difficult to come back from it. And then on turn 3, all of a sudden, you'll see them go, I'll slow down a bit. So like turn 1, say like Daisy. Turn 2, Daisy Rhino. Turn 3, they play Lady plus heaven forbid a Daisy or a Piglet or something like that. And then they shift Rhino on 4. Like sometimes they just have it. And there's not much that any deck is going to do against those kind of things. But overall, I really like Blurple. Definitely the deck I'm probably bringing to set championships. Got a handful of other things to try out though, but at the end of the day, it's the deck I love and I'm most comfortable with, and I think that it just overall fares really well into the entirety of the meta, so I'm pretty happy with it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Don't forget our 6,000 subscriber giveaway for a box of Fabled in August. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for coming back, and we got a lot more planned, so don't go anywhere. Make sure you hit that button. Take care.